For more than 2 decades, we've been educating our listeners about financial topics that are most important to you. Do you have enough money to retire? How will you keep from running out of money? What's your plan for managing market risk? What about taxes, inflation, and health care? Each week, we talk with an advisor at Lucia Capital Group about these issues and more. This is Managing Your Financial Future. All right. Thank you all. I still need some applause, Professor Plum. I got to get some canned applause in this thing. I don't know why. It just seems
we're not going to get it
appropriate.
from the audience that we're sitting with.
No, I know, but we do get applause occasionally from people who are emailing us and telling us how much they like the show. It's always good. You know, we are insecure performers when it comes down to it. We really need some positive feedback, and when we get that from you, it's always good. Met some people not too long ago who are regular listeners of the podcast, about a week and a half ago. Yes. And they said, after all this time, I'm finally putting a face to the name. And, of course, I said, I'm sorry to disappoint you.
Hope they don't go
stuff.
screaming into the night now.
Yeah. But I like to tell them, I said, look, if there's anything you ever want to hear us talk about, let us know. And so they said they would. So we'll see. We shall see.
Cool.
Here's something, and you've run across this fairly recently, and this is why I'm going to cover this particular topic today with you, Professor Plum. By the way, did I say you're a CFP professional?
No.
Certified Financial Planner professional? And an associated artist,
accredited wealth management advisor.
I'm having fun with you now.
Associated what?
Associated artist, AA, whatever. It doesn't matter. But I like to put that in. You know. So I should say that, and I'm not an advisor. I'm the podcast host. But hey, you know,
compliance makes us say these things.
Well, sure, yeah, and I get that. But today's thing, there are some things that you didn't know about Social Security. Now, I don't mean you, Professor Plum, because I haven't put one over on you yet, as far as I know.
Bring it on.
But the folks listening, these are some things that are not talked about too much about Social Security, and I want to cover this because you had told me that you've had a couple of these situations come up, meeting with people who did not know, and they said this kind of changes some things for them.
Well, there's a lot of misunderstanding about the benefits, and there's a lot of misunderstanding about the taxability of the benefits, and that's where a lot of the questions of really come in.
Yes, exactly. So I'm going to start with some of I don't know how many we'll get through. Not that many, but what we're going to do is cover this survivor benefit thing, which is really a lot of people find confusing. So I'll cover that here in a little bit. We'll start with some of the lighter ones, some things that people may not know. And this is good for you to listen to, even if you're not on Social Security. I think you need to be prepared for these things. Now, the rules could always change, of course.
And they do from time to time.
Yeah, but they don't change a whole lot, I've found.
Well, the last change we had, major change in my opinion, was 10 years ago when they took away a lot of our options.
Like the file and suspend.
A lot of those fun things that we used to do.
Oh, we had great strategies.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Well, that was the reason they took them away, because according to their words, they said we were getting benefits that they never intended us to have, they being Congress.
Yeah, all right. And they're getting benefits we never intended them to have, but that's a whole other story. So here's a light one for you. Social Security benefits are paid in the month following the month for which they are due. Now, people don't know that. So explain what that means.
Well, if I apply for my benefit to start this month, I'm going to receive, what month is this?
Well, we're recording this right now in like April.
Okay, so if I apply now for my benefit to start in April, I will not receive a check in April. I will receive a benefit for April that is paid in May. It pays the following month. If, unfortunately, I were to die, my wife becomes eligible for a spousal or survivor benefit. She can start the benefit this month, but she won't be paid for another month.
Yeah, so
it's always paid the month after. And this actually makes sense on the other side of it, when the benefit stops. Because if it was paid the month that it was due, the idea is you don't get paid for the month unless you live for the whole month.
And that was going to be the second one.
Oh, I didn't know. Sorry.
Well, no, that's okay. We'll roll into it. But okay, first of all, when you apply for your benefits, and you say, well, "Gosh, I want it to start," I'd love
so if I
to
turn
start
62 this month, my this month's benefit will be paid next month.
How long?
I can't apply for it last month because I wasn't old enough to apply for it last month to start this month.
How long? Do you happen to know how long it takes when you apply? I mean, do you have to do this ahead of time?
You want to do it a month or two ahead, yes.
Yeah. So you can apply before you are
probably 2 months ahead.
Age 62, which is the earliest to start
62,
your retirement benefit.
And then you'll get the benefit the following month.
Yeah, but you can apply. You just say it's got to start.
And you can tell when you're going to get your benefit based on what day of the month you were born.
Okay.
So if you were born in the first 10 days of the month, your benefit's paid on the second Wednesday. If you're born 11 through 20, it's paid on the third Wednesday. And if you're born on the 19th through the end of the month, or the 21st through the end of the month, it's paid on the fourth Wednesday of the month. Now, if you're eligible for SSI, that's paid at the beginning of the month. But you can set your budgets up based on these types. You know when it's going to happen.
When the payment will happen. Sure.
And so if you've got somebody who's born at the end of the month, you're a married couple, and the other one's born towards the beginning of the month, you'll get a check in the middle of the month and one towards the later end of the month.
That's kind of nice. 2 checks, 2 different checks.
But if you're born at the same, basically at the same time,
you're going to get both checks.
Get 2 on the same day.
Yeah. Well,
you just have to learn how to budget off of that type of
knowing when
it's going to happen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. Now, you also mentioned that the other end when the benefit stops. So here's the other thing that people didn't know was that Social Security does not pay benefits if you don't live through the entire month.
Right. So if you die on the 30th of April or May or whatever, any month that has a 30, almost all of them, but you don't get the benefit for that month. But if you were paid in the same month that your benefit was for, like if my April benefit was paid in April and then I died April 30th, they would ask for that benefit back.
Yeah, so they're not going to do that.
So by paying it the following month, you have time to tell them, don't send it to me because you're just going to take it back anyway. And yes, they will take it back. They will come after it. So even if you don't tell them right away and you wait 3, 4, 5 months to tell Social Security and you keep getting the check, when they find out, and they will find out that the person has passed away, they're going to come back after that money.
Yeah, and they're not going to be real nice about it.
They're a collection agency at that point.
I suppose that's true.
And so
if you're
understanding how that works may alleviate some stress down the line.
From a Social Security payment standpoint, it's helpful for you to live into the next month if possible.
Try to have your final days like on the 1st or 2nd. That way, you don't get paid for a month that you live through.
I don't mean to be flip about that, but it's for people who like to think in terms of strategies like that.
That's a horrible strategy. But.
Well, it is. All right. So you don't get, if you die, you got to live through the entire month in order to be eligible. So if you died on April 30th, you would get a check May whatever.
Probably if you didn't tell them right away.
Yeah.
But especially if your birthday was towards the beginning of the month, you get paid the second Wednesday of the month.
Yeah.
But once they find out, they're going to ask for that money back.
Yeah, so you should tell them. Okay, so that's another thing. Now here are some of these more strategic things that you need to think about that you may not have known about Social Security. The first 2, as I said, were benefits are paid in the month following the month for which they're due. The second was they don't pay benefits for the month that you die because you didn't live through the whole month. And then this one here, we see this a lot. Professor, people don't understand that Social Security is always potentially taxable, your benefits.
Right. And I had this talking with somebody the other day. It doesn't matter what kind of a benefit you're receiving from Social Security, whether it's a retirement benefit, a spousal benefit, a survivor benefit, or a disability benefit. They all have the exact same taxability rules. And it has to do with other income outside of Social Security. What other income? Your pensions, capital gains, interest, dividends, tax-free municipal bond interest, almost any other income that's on your tax return. And thankfully Roths don't count because qualified Roth distributions don't show up on the tax return.
Right.
But you don't even add it back in. It's not a preference item in that respect. But they look at all this other income and they add that up and then they add half of the Social Security benefit to it and say if that's over certain thresholds, then some up to a maximum of 85% of your overall benefit is going to be in the taxable column as part of your taxable income. Basically.
Ordinary income.
It's ordinary income.
Yeah. Whatever your tax bracket is.
It doesn't matter whether it's a disability benefit. And that's why a lot of people think disability is tax-free. And for a lot of people who are on Social Security disability, that's the only income they have.
So it is.
And because they don't have any other income that affects it, it's tax-free in that respect. But if you are married to somebody who is making a living, has IRA distributions, other income, and you're filing a joint return, that could subject your disability, Social Security, to taxation. Same thing with survivor benefits. Same thing with retirement benefits. Same thing with family benefits for kids, even if that child were to have a job. But that doesn't happen all that much because most kids under the age of 18 don't earn enough to have a problem with the Social Security taxation they're receiving from their late parent.
That's true, and that's another one that we won't get into it. But another benefit, another thing that people didn't necessarily know was that kids can be eligible for benefits, as can parents in certain situations.
What we're seeing more often now than we used to is people having children later in life, and so they are turning 62, 63, 64, and their kids are still in their early teens, or in some cases even younger.
Yeah.
Once that parent is eligible for and applies for a benefit, if that child is under the age of 18, they get a benefit. They can get a benefit as well.
Sure.
And so that goes into, if you have kids, if you're later, if you've had kids later in life, that goes into the decision of when might you take your Social Security, because in some cases you might take it a little bit earlier so you can double up on the kids' benefits while they're eligible, which is helpful in those years.
Can be. All right. So Social Security, that's the other thing, is Social Security benefits are always potentially taxable. It doesn't mean that they will be. But we see this, Professor, you see this a lot when people start their required minimum distributions.
And all of a sudden they were going along without having much in the way of taxation on their any benefits or their other incomes. And boom, maybe their required minimum distribution is $20,000.
Yeah.
And their taxable income goes up by $38,000. They say, wait a minute, or 37. I only took 20 out. How come my taxable income went up by 37? Well, it's because a big chunk of Social Security that was previously not taxable became taxable.
Yeah, and there are ways to strategize around
potentially,
that.
Yes,
but maybe not. I mean, not for everybody. You just have to understand that there may be tax.
There are ways to look at it and see what's happening and how can we turn this lemon into some lemonade, if possible.
There are two different levels of taxation, too, on your Social Security benefits. I mean, there's two different income
there's two different thresholds. The early threshold, up to 50%, or for every dollar you go over the threshold, 50 cents of your benefit becomes taxable. And then after a little bit, you go into a new threshold that for every new dollar of income, 85 cents of your Social Security becomes taxable, up to a maximum of 85% of your overall Social Security benefit. And when I say overall, that is the total benefit paid, not necessarily what's being deposited into your checking account.
Yeah.
Your benefit may be $2,200, but you're only receiving $2,025 after the Medicare Part B premium. They're not going to tax only 85% of the $2,025.
It's the whole thing.
They're basing it on the $2,200.
Yeah. Things that often surprise people, and I'm surprised myself at how often you see that. Where it takes
people a lot.
Yeah,
and it's also a pain.
I agree with that.
There's been some talk about getting rid of the taxability of Social Security. I don't know how much pressure or how much strength behind the push is, but there's two movements out there right now. One of them is to get rid of the taxability of Social Security, and the other is to get rid of the WEP and GPO. I don't know how much traction that's going to get either.
Some people may not know what we're saying. We can explain this in 15, 20 seconds. You said WEP and GPO, the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset.
And these affect people that have pensions from work where they did not pay into Social Security. A lot of government employees, not federal now. Federal pays into Social Security ever since 1984. But older federal employees, a lot of municipal workers, a lot of safety, first responders and stuff, firefighters, law enforcement, they don't pay into Social Security. They have fairly decent pensions for the most part, but those pensions, that during that work that they were earning that pension, they did not pay FICA. And because of that, if they are then eligible because they had another job and they earned their own Social Security benefit, or they're married to somebody who has a Social Security benefit where they would normally be eligible for a survivor or even a spousal benefit, they could have the benefit completely wiped out because of these provisions.
Yeah, and we've done other episodes on that, but if you want some more information, you can check Lucia Cap. By the way, I should mention this here. If you want all of this information, we've got this Social Security decision kit. Now, we put this together quite a long time ago. We update it fairly regularly, I think. It should be updated, or maybe
need to update it.
Maybe the amounts are slightly off, and what changes is
the amounts for the taxation go up slightly. No, the taxation doesn't go up slightly, but the amounts for benefits, amounts for the retirement earnings test and things of that nature go up
that
slightly
may
every
change.
year.
But the rules are generally still the same. This Social Security decision kit, it's actually called 50 Social Security Questions Answered. And we did this quite some time ago, and this is one of the most popular downloads. You can download that, by the way. Go to luciacap.com, LUCIACAP.com, and then in the little search bar at the top, if you type in Social Security, you will see resources come up, and it'll be the first thing that you can click on. And you can get your own free Social Security decision kit.
There's a bunch of information on that website for not just Social Security, but all types of things.
Well, we've got the retirement the buckets, I should say, the buckets guide right there, and there's an estate planning guide, all that stuff. So if you want the buckets guide, you can type in buckets. If you want the estate planning guide, you can type in estate planning, and it'll come up as the first resource up there. But I mention that because it's free stuff, and it really is an important thing to at least understand how these things work. And I think we've taken almost every scenario that we could think of and answer the questions on that. So check it out, Social Security Decision Kit, free for the downloading at luciacap.com, LUCIACAP.com. Okay, so the Social Security is always potentially taxable. Now, here's one that you mentioned spousal benefits a moment ago. Here's something that many people don't know, and it upsets them. Your ex-spouse may be entitled to benefits on your work record. Your ex-spouse may be entitled to get a spousal benefit off of your work record.
Right. Now, the good news is that if you have an ex-spouse that qualifies for benefits based on your work record, it has no impact on you. It will not reduce your benefit by a dime. It won't reduce your new spouse's benefit if they are eligible for a benefit. It won't reduce your kids' benefits if they're eligible. It won't reduce your parents' benefits if they're eligible. All the people in your direct family that are eligible for benefits
based on your work
record, it has no impact on. Now, on the other side, there's nothing you can do to stop it either. I've had a couple of people, just recently I had somebody say, I want to know a little bit more about Social Security, and I want to know how to keep my ex-spouse from getting a dime from my work record. And it's like, well, the bad news is you can't stop her if she's otherwise eligible. I don't know whether her benefit was large enough to, or small enough to be eligible. But the good news is you won't ever know.
Well, and people
you will never know because they don't even have to tell you. You're not paying them. It's not more money coming out of your pocket. It's just an event for them.
The confusion comes because people have pensions sometimes where they say, well, if I want my spouse to take a benefit,
or if I'm getting divorced and I've earned a pension during my marriage years, my ex-spouse will take some of my pension.
Right. So
it will reduce what I'm receiving. My pension may be $2,200 a month, and my spouse will get X percent of that, which means I'm getting that much less.
Yes.
That's not the way Social Security works.
That's not the case. So even though you can't do anything to stop it, it doesn't affect you at all.
Right.
There are just people who say, just the thought. Just the
then
thought.
Don't think about it.
What do you have to do to be? What does an ex-spouse have to do to be eligible to take if you are an ex-spouse? What do you have to do to be eligible to get a Social Security benefit on that ex-spouse's work record?
Well, you had to have been married for at least 10 years consecutively. And if you were not already receiving a spousal benefit, you had to have been divorced for at least 2 years before you can get. But if you were married for at least 10 years, and the divorce was more than 2 years ago, and your benefit is not large enough to be an offset to, you're not going to get your benefit and the spousal benefit.
You'll get the
higher of the two.
Yeah.
So you can play games, with that. Now, the spousal benefit is always based on what the worker's full retirement age benefit is. It doesn't matter when the worker, in this case, starts receiving the benefit, whether they took a reduced benefit at 62,
doesn't matter.
Whether they took an enhanced benefit at age 70, or anywhere in between. That's not the starting point for determining the spousal benefit. The spousal benefit is based on that worker's full retirement age benefit. And then it's 50% of that if the spouse is full retirement age.
Yes. And if not, it gets reduced.
And you're eligible for it as early as age 62. But it gets reduced quite a bit.
It does. But it's there for you if you need it. So the things we've talked about so far that you may not have known: Social Security benefits paid in the following the month for which they're due. They don't pay benefits the month you're dead, so they stop. Social Security is always potentially taxable. Your ex-spouse may be entitled to benefits on your work record.
Or if you're an ex-spouse, you may be entitled to benefits that you didn't know about.
That's true. You should check with that. And then speaking of spousal, not really spousal, because these are survivor benefits. Now, I want to spend just a tiny bit of time on this, Professor Plum.
The reason we talk about Social Security, even though we We're not Social Security.
We are not the Social Security
We
Administration.
can't help you get a bigger benefit all of a sudden because we have some rabbit, we can pull out. But the idea is you need to know what benefits you are eligible for at what ages and things of that nature, because it's part of the planning process. And you have to get this part down so then you can determine how much you need from your portfolio, which then dictates how you invest that portfolio.
Now, Social Security has something called survivor benefits, or they may call them widows and widowers benefits, depending, but it's the same thing. And here's one thing that before we get into the actual nitty-gritty of that, widows and widowers payments can continue if remarriage occurs after age 60. Now, I want to talk for just a second about what this means. What is a survivor benefit, Professor Plum? I think people think that they get their own benefit and a survivor benefit on going on and on if their spouse passes away.
No, and this is similar to the spousal benefit. You get the larger of the two.
So how does it work?
So if I am receiving, $2,000 a month and my spouse is getting $2,500 a month and my spouse passes away, and assuming we're both past full retirement age, I'm not dealing with any discounts on this, then I would start receiving $2,500 a month. I would not receive $2,000 that I was receiving plus another $25. I would get the larger of the two.
Your $2,000 benefit in this example goes away. You are now getting a survivor or widow's benefit
$2,500
of $2,500. You've lost $2,000 in this example. You've lost $2,000 a month.
That we as a couple, we lost one of the persons, but we also lost $2,000. On the other hand, if my spouse with the $2,500 a month benefit, or the other way around, if I died with the $2,000 benefit, my spouse with the $2,500 benefit doesn't get anything extra.
No, they
just
continue
keep getting
to
their
get
own because that was the larger of the two benefits.
Yeah, in that case, it's not really called a widow's benefit.
They just keep getting your own. You're just not entitled to a widow's benefit because your benefit's larger than. Now, not the good thing about spousal or survivor benefits is they're not coordinated with each other if you take one early. So you can't, unlike a spousal benefit, where if you take it early, it will affect, if you take your own benefit earlier and then later become eligible for a spousal benefit, that reduction in your benefit will have an effect on the overall amount of money you receive as a spousal benefit. Unlike that, a survivor benefit, if I start my benefit at age 62, which is reduced by 25% from my full retirement age benefit, and then my spouse passes away, and I wait until full retirement age to start beginning the widower's benefit, I get the full thing, no reduction. Even though I started taking mine early, I didn't take the survivor benefit early, therefore I get the full thing.
So that continued to grow.
Or didn't get reduced.
Didn't get reduced, true, yeah.
Now, this widow's benefit is based on, for the most part, based on if the person who died was already receiving their benefit, the widow or widower's benefit is based on the amount they're receiving.
Yes.
So if they started taking it early, that's the benefit that you will receive at full retirement age in most cases. There's a small caveat for somebody who started at 62, but I'm not going to go there. So if they started taking it and they were reduced by 20% from their full retirement age benefit, that's the most the widow or widowers is going to get. Yeah. And if they take it early from there, if they start getting it at 62, it's reduced from there again. On the other hand, if the person who's receiving the benefit that dies waited until age 70 to start taking their benefit, they got all those enhancements of 8% a year from their full retirement age up to age 70. That's the widower's benefit that will be paid out subject to the age of the widow that starts taking it. If they're full retirement age, you get the full thing.
Yeah. Now, that's a lot of numbers to throw out there, and it can be confusing. So I don't expect people listening to this to necessarily follow the whole thing. But the important thing to, I think, take away with the survivor benefit is if you're both receiving your Social Security benefits, when somebody dies, the lower of the benefit goes away.
Yes.
And that takes some people by surprise. Right. Now,
you don't get them both.
No. Now let's say we had this situation where you're making $2,000 a month, your spouse is making a benefit of $2,500 a month. Your spouse passes away, you get the $2,500 a month now,
right?
And that's all you get. But what happens if you get remarried?
Well, now that I'm actually receiving a survivor benefit,
yes,
I can't lose it for the rest of my life, even if I get remarried, because I'm obviously over age 60 because I'm getting a benefit already.
Right.
And so I find true love again and I get remarried. And if that person now has a benefit of at least 2,500 or more, and they unfortunately pass away,
Yes.
I could get a bigger benefit, but I can't lose what I already have.
So
I would continue with that 2,500. If the new person's benefit is 2,200 and I'm married for a year and then they die, I still get my 2,500 the whole time.
Okay.
I don't get a bigger. But if their benefit's 3,500,
you can jump up to that.
and they died, I could jump up. If I was married long enough, I could get that benefit instead of the 2,500.
Now
I can always go up if I'm eligible for a higher benefit, but I can't lose what I've already got. Now, if I am a early widow or widower,
Yes.
I lose somebody before age 60. I'm not eligible for a widow or widower's benefit until I'm age 60. If I get remarried at 59, I no longer have any access to the previous late spouse's work record.
So yeah, and this is one thing that people don't understand. Let's try to explain this in just the few minutes we have left. You're both 59, let's say. And obviously, you're not receiving any benefits at this point. You're
because
too
I'm
young.
not old
You're
enough.
too young. Your spouse passes away. Your spouse was supposed to get, at 62, a $2,000 benefit.
Okay. Well, let's make me younger than 59 because that's a quick turnaround to get married again. I was 55 or something when all right. And then before I turned 60, before I started receiving, before I became eligible for a widower's benefit, I get remarried. Now I have no claim against my late ex or my late spouse's or my late ex-spouse's benefits because I remarried before the age of 60. Now, if that marriage ends, either in death or divorce, I can go back and claim a widower's benefit from the first spouse because I'm single again.
So would your advice be that if you want some more extra options and you're in your late 50s and you have a spouse who passed away,
well, at least know what your options are to see whether it's worth.
Would it be worth waiting until you're at least age 60 to give yourself a potential other option?
We've seen that happen where people will wait. Maybe they think they're going to get married at 58, 59, and they realize, wait a minute, I'm giving up, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 a month at age 60
because I
won't have a spousal benefit anymore. And so they wait until 60 in a little bit, get the benefit, then get remarried.
I mean, again, it's, if you find true love, maybe you can wait and say, I love you, but I love you more if we get more money.
Or you realize, well, I'm going to be working at 60 anyway, which means I'm not going to be able to get a benefit because of the earnings tests. And so I'm not. And then when I do start receiving a benefit, my benefit's going to be larger than what the ex's, whatever, late spouses was. So I'm not going to get a benefit anyway. I'm not going to postpone getting married. Or it all depends. You just have to know what's available to be able to make a decision.
And it's hard to know what's available. I mean, really, we have this Social Security decision kit, and I'll tell you what, there's a reason that there are 50 questions and not 10 questions, because 50 questions covers almost everything.
I'm sure there's other scenarios we could probably dream up, but they're very rare. But they're out there.
They are out there, and you don't know what to do. Well, this is why you need to talk to somebody like Professor Plum. Now, I don't know how many advisors you know who are very, very good at their job, but do they all know what you know with regard to the Social Security?
They know most of what I know as far as Social Security. I may have an edge on some of the minutia. But they know most everything.
Well, and of course, as limits change, as things change every year, you have to kind of be up on that.
Yeah, and they do, and the thresholds for retirement work or for working and receiving a benefit change slightly every year. They change in the years, the year you turn full retirement age. The rules are complex, but yeah, they're out there. You just need to know what's there and then see if it's going to affect you. But if you're going to work until 67, 70, 75, you're not going to worry about that retirement test or the earnings test.
No, but what I think threw a little bit of a wrench into the works was when we had, some people had a age 65 retirement age, some had age 66, and then they added 67.
Well, and we're in the middle of moving it up towards 67. So people that are in their mid 60s right now, their retirement age, people retiring or people hitting full retirement age right now are 66 and 8 months.
Yeah.
Next year, they'll be 66 and 10 months. And the following year, it'll be 67.
Yeah. So there are a lot of different possibilities. What I would suggest you do before you do anything else, because Social Security, here we say it again, is one of the foundations of your entire financial plan.
It's the income that basically it serves as the foundation, the baseline income that we're going to. It should not, hopefully not be the only income you have in retirement, but it is a baseline that you can count on.
Yes, and the larger that baseline, the less pressure there is on your portfolio, just like a pension. The larger a pension you have, and the larger more guaranteed income you have from pension, Social Security, and other sources, the less pressure your portfolio has to supply the shortfall.
But knowing what your options are allows you to then say, okay, my baseline income is going to be X. I don't want just baseline. I want to have some more income in retirement. My portfolio can either support this much or I need this much. And so how do I fill in this shortfall over and above what my Social Security and or my pensions provide if I have a shortfall? That then dictates how you go about investing the rest of your portfolio.
That's why you talk to Professor Rick Plum or any of the Lucia Capital Group advisors who have access to Rick Plum. And they know all this stuff, too. I'm just teasing.
And they know my
that.
phone number.
They know your phone number. They know you're right next door. 800-644-1150. Talk to them at Lucia Capital Group. You know, it's something as simple as deciding when to take your benefits. That may be an easy decision for you to make, but you might say, well, gosh, I didn't know I was eligible for this other benefit. I didn't know I was maybe eligible for that benefit. I really didn't know. I didn't know my kids may be eligible. These are the things that they need to talk about.
And the decision-making process is slightly different depending upon whether you're a single individual or a married couple.
Absolutely. Married couples have more options, but of course they can also have more problems when one of them passes away. Yeah, it's just more complex. 800-644-1150. As I said, you can also go online at luciacap.com. Don't forget you can download the Social Security Guide, the 50 Social Security Questions Answered. It's a decision kit. Type in Social Security in the search bar, and you can download it for free and read it at your leisure. A lot of information there at luciacap.com. You want to subscribe to this podcast? Sure you do. You heard this show, and if this is your first time hearing this show, you said, boy, that's some good information. I'd like this every single week. Subscribe. You can go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, either one of those, and listen to every single episode and get it downloaded to your device every single week. Lots of stuff to talk about. We've got more coming up next week. Hey, Professor, you know, we don't talk a lot about Social Security. I know it's important. But it's important, and I don't like to leave it out because of the very nature of it being the foundation of your financial plan. And the more, as I said, the more Social Security you can potentially have, the more pensions you can have, the more options you have.
Right. And obviously, the bigger the amount of money you have coming every month, the easier things get.
Well, absolutely. And that's one of the goals. Thank you so much, Professor Plum. As always, I appreciate it. For Professor Rick Plum, I'm your podcast host, Johnny Dean. Thanks for listening. We will talk to you again next week. The information provided should not be considered specific tax, legal, or investment advice and is not specific to any individual's personal circumstance. Different types of investments and/or investment strategies involve varying levels of risk, and there can be no assurance that any specific investment or investment strategy will be profitable for a client's or prospective client's portfolio. Thus, investments may result in a loss of principal. You should always seek counsel of the appropriate advisor prior to making any investment decision. All investments are subject to risk, including the loss of principal. This material was gathered from sources believed to be reliable. However, its accuracy cannot be guaranteed. The information provided is based on current laws, which are subject to change at any time. Lucia Capital Group is not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any government agency. Social Security rules can be complex. For more information about Social Security benefits, visit the SSA website at ssa.gov or call 800-772-1213 to speak with an SSA representative. IRA withdrawals will be taxed at ordinary income rates. Withdrawals prior to age 59.5 may also be subject to a 10% penalty tax. Roth IRA distributions of principal from a Roth IRA are tax-free. However, any earnings will be taxed at ordinary income rates, and a 10% penalty tax will apply if withdrawn prior to age 59.5 or within 5 years of the date the Roth IRA was established, whichever is longer. Municipal bond interest may be subject to the alternative minimum tax. Rick Plum is a registered representative with and securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor and member FINRA SIPC. The investment professionals are affiliated with LPL Financial and are conducting business using the name Lucia Capital Group, a separate entity from LPL Financial.